Just a little update on this petition that has been doing the rounds, calling for another general election. It's exceeded 2.5 million signatures already.
Doubled in just 2 days.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since the start of the week.
Lots of you have been getting in touch about that this morning on Your Say. Alistair says, we have a government of incompetence, and Starmer's dismissive view of the general election petition is further proof that his priority is self and his own view of the world, and he has no concern for the people or the national interest.
So whoever wrote that, they're saying basically don't ignore this because we can make this happen.
Well, he was asked about it on This Morning yesterday, which I thought was quite interesting. I don't know if he thinks it's a good idea to go on This Morning because he might get an easy ride, but he wasn't given an easy ride. And he said, yeah, I'm perfectly aware lots of people don't like me. Well, you've just won a landslide number of seats in Parliament, and you are just a few months after winning it. You wouldn't expect 2.5 million people to sign a petition of this nature. Will it change anything? Probably not, but we'll be speaking to the government in just a moment, and we will talk about this, amongst other things.
We're also talking about jobs and the biggest reform to employment for a generation, according to the Work and Pension Secretary Liz Kendall. She's unveiling Labour's back to work plan today.
Yes, they're calling it a youth guarantee, and it will see unemployed 18 to 21-year-olds lose their benefits if they refuse work.
But there is no mention of a crackdown on sickness benefits.
Well, leading the Conservatives to label the plan nothing more than rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
Well, let's get more on this now. We go to our political correspondent, Catherine Forster, on this one. Catherine, what more have you got to tell us?
Yes, good morning. Well, there are 1 million young people who are not in education, not in training, not in employment. So the government is trying to tackle this with some announcements today, £240 million, expanding the role of job centres, and 40 million on a trailblazer scheme, skills opportunities, places like the Premier League, the RSC, for those lucky enough to get taken on that, but trying to give opportunities and jobs to young people with the threat that they could lose their benefits if they don't take those up. But more broadly, the welfare bill, frankly, is astronomical. It's gone up significantly post-COVID. We've now got 2.8 million people on long-term sickness benefits. It's costing 65 billion a year. That's projected to go up to 100 billion. The government, taxpayers, us, simply cannot afford that. So the government is going to have to look at how to get that down. But that's not what we're hearing today. We're getting a bit of the carrot, if you like, to young people, but the stick is going to have to come next year if they're to tackle this, because the government, as we know, is very short of money. They put up taxes by 40 billion. The growth projections are anemic at best. Public services not in a good state. So getting that welfare bill down is going to be critical, but at the moment we don't know how they're going to do that.
It's funny, they keep seeming to sort of box themselves into corners. We were talking a moment ago, Catherine, about the PM on This Morning yesterday, where he said that he was taking this approach of getting rid of the pain in the beginning and then hopefully reaping the benefits later on during his term. Well, it doesn't sound like it if he's planning this big welfare cut possibly next year, this change to disability benefits. And then we've got the Chancellor, who's already made herself incredibly unpopular since her budget, coming out and saying, don't worry, no more tax rises. Well, that's now on the record. But it's also led other people to conclude that's going to mean public sector cuts come 2026, more austerity.
Yes, 2.5 million people signing that petition, as you mentioned. But I think that Labour swept to that big majority, not because people were positive and excited about what they were going to bring, but because so many people were really cross with the Conservative Party. And it was going to be difficult for whoever came into power. There's not a lot of money around, but they certainly have had a very, very rocky start. There was a lot of talk of doom and gloom. They've said it's all about growth, it's all about change, but it seems like growth is going to be very, very hard to come by. And if they don't get that, of course, Rachel Reeves has said she's not going to be putting up taxes more. Are they going to have to make cuts to public services?
Okay.
It sounds very much like they are in a couple of years.
Interesting.
Let's find out, Catherine. Thanks very much indeed. It'd be nice to say hello, good morning, and welcome to the Employment Minister, Alison Mcgovern. Alison.
Good morning.
Hiya. How big is this problem you've got on your hands? Because I have to say, I'm a bit surprised by this. I wasn't aware that we had a problem, particularly in the youth sector of the economy, and people, can they not get jobs or do they not want jobs?
So the problem is big because it's risen quite a lot in the past few years. So unemployment itself is historically quite low, but we've got a really targeted problem with young people that seems to be about ill health that young people are experiencing. And it's also concentrated in certain parts of the country. Post-pandemic, young people didn't get the chances and opportunities that they really needed to start to have a good career in life. And that's why we've published a white paper today showing how we're going to change that, both by fixing our job centres to bring them into the modern world, and also by having a special focus on young people to make sure no young person is left on the scrap heap, languishing without an opportunity.
Yeah, the figures are stark. 14% of under 25s are neither earning nor learning. You talk about this mental health crisis, and you're now offering schemes to work within Channel 4, the Royal Shakespeare Company, and even in the Premier League. So this is the carrot, but what about the stick? Because there seems to be no mention of the huge cuts that you are planning to the welfare bill, because we need to make cuts to it. How big will they be, and how painful will they be?
Well, firstly, let me say on the rules. With Social Security, everybody has a responsibility to stick to the rules. What that means is, if you receive universal credit, an agreement about what you're going to do, about the activities that you're going to undertake, and if you don't fulfil that agreement, if I claimed universal credit tomorrow and I didn't fulfil what I'd signed up to do, then I could have my benefit stopped and taken off me. And those rules are really important because they protect the system. We've also had a whole lot of fraud under the Tories in the system, which is another problem that we need to deal with. What we've also got happening is in certain parts of our country, we haven't got enough good jobs, enough opportunities. And the government has a responsibility, because it's responsibility on both sides, to help young people into those jobs. So a good opportunity put to you and a responsibility to take it up.
What would you say to anybody who's thinking about doctoring their CV? Would that be considered within the rules? I ask because, of course, the Chancellor of the Exchequer has been found guilty of that, although facing no repercussions for it.
I'm really sorry, I'm not sure what you're referring to there, because the Chancellor of the Exchequer is an extremely qualified person to be taking.
Yeah, but she lied on her LinkedIn as well, you know, claiming to have been an economist at the Bank of England when she worked in retail at HSBC. Totally different.
No, I'm sorry, but she was an economist at the Bank of England.
Yes, but not the dates that she claimed.
Qualified economist.
It was also while she was a trainee at university.
To do her job.
OK, so that's fine within the rules for any youngsters that want to get on.
Bank of England economist. I'm not really sure what we're. I'm not really sure what we're arguing here over, because I don't think anybody
rules and
say
people
that
trying to get jobs. I was just checking whether or not that was permitted.
As I've said, people should stick to the rules. You've put to me some kind of allegation that Rachel Reeves is not an economist, when in fact she is, and she's a very well qualified person to be doing her job.
My allegation was about her changing her LinkedIn,
so actually,
which we know to be a fact. Anyway, we can move on because we're not progressing here. Should we talk about what she was saying at the CBI conference yesterday? Got a bit of a cold reception there, but she has promised, and it's on the record now, no more tax cuts. That has led the I newspaper and other people to raise their eyebrows and predict public sector cuts come 2026, the return of austerity. No, we're not having a return to austerity that failed. We're going to invest
in our public services. What we were faced with in taking up office was a horrific legacy from the Conservative Party, where they had made promises willy-nilly that they had no idea how they were going to fund. Rachel had two choices at that point. She could either continue with that madness or take the tough choices to bring the public finances back under control and into balance, and she chose the latter, the tough choice.
Yeah, and do you think
we are announcing plans today to radically improve our job centres so that we can help deal with the staff shortages that we've got in our health service and other parts of the public sector too. And that way we will grow our economy and make it much more sustainable to invest in our public services in the future.
Surely you grow your economy by not going after business. I mean, you just have to look at the front of the Telegraph. Tax rises at the hands of the Chancellor are milking us, said the bosses of businesses in this country. They feel as though they've been the cash cow for this government.
Well, I've worked with businesses on producing the proposals we're announcing today to change job help, and I know that they need much more support from the government in making job centres work for them. I am not immune, and nor do I ignore the very tough situation that the country is in, and I know every business in the country is wrestling with that and having to deal with it. I would simply say again, Rachel had two choices on taking up office. She could either go down the same path as the Tories, year after year, making promise after promise that you can never fund, or you can get a proper budget in balance, knowing that you can fund your promises and grow the economy from there, and she chose the tough choice, the latter. And that way, through better job centres that really serve them properly, help them find the employees that they need to grow.
Well, good luck with you, Alison, what you're trying to do. I hope it does work out and finding out what's behind a lot of these youngsters and why they claim to be ill and why they are ill and what they're suffering from. But could I also talk to you about the growing, well, I see it as a problem, you mightn't see it as a problem, this popularity petition that is going around and has now reached 2.5 million signatures. I mean, there you are, a few months in government, and all these folk are saying, that's it, we've had enough, get out, or we want the chance of going to the polls again. Is this all a bit of a joke, or how seriously do you take this?
Well, we've had lots of elections in recent years. We've had almost a chaotic amount of elections, and I think what people want from politics and from government is for them to do things that are actually going to help them. I know didn't vote for us, and they didn't want the outcome that happened in the election, so it doesn't surprise me that they would take the opportunity to point that out. The thing that I would say is I do not blame anyone in this country for being frustrated at what has happened in politics in recent years. I don't think that we've delivered I don't think politics has delivered for the country. It's the challenge for us now to make real changes that people can see so they experience a better quality of life. And that is the challenge that I relish.
Well, what a challenge. Alison Mcgovern, thank you. I hope you're up to it. Very good talking to you this morning. We'll leave it there. Thank you very much.